Here I have two more Legacy Era decks from the Star Wars CCG. It's not strictly Legacy Era, which was the tournament legal format up until about 2014. It was kind of a hodgepodge that my friend and I played back when we were first getting into the game around the 2014 reset. So if you're interested more in the context of the gameplay for these, please do check out the description. These focus on the Battle of Hoth, so dark side with their AT-AT walkers and light side with speeders. I'm going to start out with the dark side deck. So this deck is all about getting a couple AT-AT-ATs on the, I don't know how many times I said AT-AT there, on the map, and trying to do damage as fast as possible. So starting out with a nice 4-to-1 activation ratio and being able to take third marker into hand from the reserve deck, which is a 2-to-1 site. And this one, I tried to make this work, trying to be able to deploy Star Destroyers and AT-ATs the same turn. It's pretty tough because it's a lot of force, but this deck does generate a decent amount of force. Plus, I don't go for the most expensive Star Destroyers either. This one allows me to take a planet into hand, and then also discard it for a Endor or Death Star 2 effect. So you got the AT-ATs here with their various abilities. A couple Blizzard Walkers, Tempest 1, Blizzard Scout 1, so AT-ATs there with some decent pilots that all have their own various abilities. This guy is pretty interesting. If he's at a battleground site, you can take a weapon from Lost Pile into hand to cancel a force drain related site. So, yeah, being able to retrieve weapons to cancel a force drain seems pretty nifty. And AT-AT cannons, shoot for free, add 2 if you're targeting a vehicle, and you can hit guys with them. So it's a pretty good shot. Plus it goes in the use pile if you lose it from tables. So there's no need for that superficial damage card, the effect that allows you to forfeit them. Although forfeiting them for 3 is nice. A couple of tramples to step on guys. Walker Garrison to boost my force drains. And then this is usually the Endor effect that I want to go get. I guess I did put inconsequential losses in here if I can get it out. But it's I always want to get out this one first if I can using my effect. Couple of Rebel base occupations to increase the damage. He increases force drains in space. And a couple of high forfeit pilots here. Not necessarily high ability though, ability 1. And the reason I chose Victory class Star Destroyers is because of that prepare for a surface attack card, so I wanted to be able to have somewhat cheaper deployment instead of the deploy 8 Star Destroyers. It's only 1, but it can make a big difference. Deploy 6 for the Victory Star Destroyers. Laser cannon batteries to be able to forfeit these guys from my Star Destroyers that are around Hoth. Hopefully get a couple of these into hand so I can pull this site. This one I pull with one of my starting effects. This one I pull with the effect that I get out after I discard the one that lets me get this planet into hand. So some pretty quick force activation depending on how you do things. If your opponent puts out a shield to suspend mobilization points, which this deck was actually made before we really played a lot of shields, then I guess they can just use the shield and then you deploy a Star Destroyer to the system, and it takes a little bit longer to get out, but you can still eventually get out the docking bay. And after that you got 3 Hoth sites controlled, or at least 3 Hoth sites on table for you with the opportunity to control, and then trying to just do a lot of force drains and losing force from the starting effect. So this one you have to lose a force for every marker that you occupy with an AT-AT. Rebel base occupation is losing 1 force for each battleground controlled. And of course you got your force drains, so just trying to set up really fast damage that the light side can't respond to quickly enough. And then a little bit of more damage with the Imperial Artilleries, plus having those 7s in the deck is nice. But that is the dark side one, so depending on what the opponent brings to battle you can take some pretty significant damage. But the nice thing about AT-ATs is that it's pretty hard to hit them with things, so it's pretty hard to make them forfeit 0. And then the guys inside are, even if they have to go down with the AT-AT, you still get their forfeit value, so you're not going to lose too much battle damage, I think. At least I haven't had that happen to me with the AT-ATs. Plus, if the opponent sends a couple scrubs at you, you can always trample one. So this one, most Hoth decks that I've ever made are about kind of hiding under the shield and going out and doing stuff in space, but I wanted to do something a little bit different where I try to spread out with snow speeders and control Hoth sites. And that means I kind of thought I should forego using the shield because the shield makes the sites under it not battlegrounds, and I wanted those Hoth sites to be battlegrounds. So being able to pull snow speeders and their pilots started out with. This one makes my immediate effects play for free. This one might not be so necessary now that we play more with shields because there is a shield that allows me to do this. And strike planning, which lets me get a general. So Hoth and the command center. And then Riken, he's kind of a big deal in this deck, so I can deploy a Hoth location with him. So he's one of the first things I pull with strike planning. Then I can start pulling Hoth sites. So 3 battleground Hoth sites. Not a lot of activation there. They're 1/1 sites. And then he lets me get the Hoth sentry, which maybe I shoehorned it into this deck a bit, but when he's out, he doubles it, and it deploys for free and uses all of its modifiers. So if I understand that correctly, when I deploy him on a site, the opponents deploy +2. The ability required for battle destiny is +2, and my total power is +2 at each site, so that allows me to spread out a bit more. And this lets me get effects, including immediate effects, such as what are you trying to push on us. So this one, I always liked putting 3 of these cards in the deck because it works similarly to the shield that's out nowadays, Allegations of Corruption, but it plays for free, kind of like an interrupt, so the opponent doesn't even know you're going to play it necessarily. And then each time they want to play an interrupt of the same name, they have to stack it there and use +1 force. So it essentially makes their interrupts lost interrupts, or if there's a really good lost interrupt that you want to stack on here, you can do that as well, just to make it more expensive for them to play it. But usually I like to use it for used interrupts and just start racking up what essentially amounts to force loss. Nice card for pulling snowspeed related things. And then of course Commander Luke is a big deal in these decks, being able to draw 2 battle destiny when he's piloting a snowspeeder. And all of Luke's Rogue Squadron buddies, plus a Dash and Rogue 10, not the official photo, but it's a cheaper one than the real one, and then a snowspeeder garrison. So it's basically a squadron of snowspeeders. And then this is the reason I wanted the battlegrounds so bad. Being able to add 2 to my force drains, so maybe the opponent will be capping your drains at 2, but if not, you're draining 3 at each of the sites you have a snowspeeder, and they can usually cover each other pretty well with reacts. A newer card that allows me to retrieve a couple cards depending on what I control. Being able to pull starfighters. The space in this deck is a little wonky. I kind of wanted to use high destiny starships with a couple of good pilots like Hera and Poe. And I got Han, Chewie, and the Falcon too, because it wasn't that necessarily important to control space, but Han, Chewie, and the Falcon with a couple life deaths. Maybe I'll be drawing 4 battle destinies at one point, who knows. And here's the, I guess, the activation for this deck. So 4 copies of this card allows me to pull the Jedi Council Chamber, and also allows me to deploy guys there to it. So being able to cancel and redraw battle destinies, being able to draw a card from your reserve deck, Yoda just being Yoda if I wanted to send a Jedi someplace else, and also being able to look for C-3PO to recycle cards. And yeah, Starship Levitation. And then Let the Wookiee Win, which is kind of a nice card for pulling cards out of your deck. There's a similar card that was just eliminated. It was Rescue in the Clouds. So basically looking at 3 cards, picking one, and then putting them in your used pile or in your deck. So trying to search through the deck, find things pretty fast, get a lot of snowspeeders out to Hoth, and if the opponent doesn't challenge you too much on Hoth, depending on what they're doing, maybe they're trying to drain you on their own planet, you might be able to slap down a T-47 battle formation or 2. But not necessarily the safest plan in space. I mean, there's a lot. It's pretty expensive to keep him up, but just kind of wanted to do something where I spread out snowspeeders along Hoth. Anyways, that's it for these 2 decks, the 2 Hoth-themed ones. I will have more videos, both of decks and of Star Wars CCG sealed products, so I hope you check those out. Thanks for watching.